Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular council meeting. Today is Wednesday, October the 25th, 2023. It's often referred to as the International Artists' Day. In fact, today is the late Pablo Picasso's birthday. I'd like to welcome those that are joining with us virtually, as well as those in the council chamber. Remind you that all communication devices are to be silenced or put on vibrate. Tonight, I'd like to pay tribute, extend our condolences to the Williamson family for passing this week of Ingrid. Ingrid was, along with her husband Will, residents of Plympton-Wyoming, built Sunripe into 3 stores that have become cornerstones within the community. A great lady who was sorely missed by all who knew. We acknowledge that this land on which we are gathered today is part of the ancestral land of the Chippewa, Ottawa, Potawatomi peoples, referred to collectively as the Anishinaabe. It is through the connection of the Anishinaabe with the spirit of the land, water, and air that we recognize their unique cultures, traditions, and values. Together as treaty people, we have a shared responsibility to act with respect for the environment that sustains all life, protecting the future for those generations to come. Council item number 3 on the agenda, if you have any conflict or perceived conflict of interest, I would ask you to declare it at the appropriate time. Deputy Clerk, do we have any delegations this evening? No. Okay, thank you. Council, we're going to go to item number 5 on your agenda. A motion by Councillor Basie, seconded by Councillor Bojan. The staff received the comments and questions from council regarding the Huron Shores Optimus outdoor ice rink proposal. And then that a report be brought back at a future meeting for council's consideration. Council, I would remind you that what we're going to do is we're going to go through each councillor individually. You can ask your questions and staff will be recording them. If they have an answer for you, we will give that to you at the end of your questioning. I would ask all other councillors to please wait till that councillor is finished asking their questions before you jump in or have anything, add a comment the same. I'll also remind you that we do have several drainage meetings at 6 o'clock. So we will keep this item moving along. And if we are not done with it, we will table it till we come back. So everybody's clear. Okay, first one up, Councillor Bojan, would you like to start us off, please?
Sure. I think the biggest question I have is going to come down to what kind of the motion is in terms of meeting a staff report, in terms of staffing, level of service, and the true costs associated with the operation of the proposed facility. And the only reason I say that is because I do think that some of those costs when it comes to staff were a little low when it comes to the scale of the facility. So I think we need to do our due diligence, and staff can certainly lean on neighboring municipalities or other municipalities that have similar facilities just to kind of get prices from them in terms of budget impact. I just think, like I said in the last meeting, I might have been naive. It's just the proposal was a little bit more than I was expecting in terms of when the previous council talked about skating rink. So I just think we need to do our due diligence and know what the impact on our budget is going to be. And I think the best course of action is a staff report. The other one would lend to, again, with my municipal hat on, I know the Optimists put a lot of work and time into the proposal they brought forward. I just think of municipal led projects, there's usually kind of potential alternatives. I think it might be helpful for council's sake to have potential alternatives as well that we can look at in terms of scaled down versions. So maybe it's as proposed, here's what the cost will be associated with it. And then alternative B could be, it's still a refrigerated outdoor skating rink, but maybe it's just a change room and a one accessible washroom kind of thing, just a scaled down version. I think that would be helpful as well. The other one is still to do with staffing. Is I know that we're already teetering on capacity in terms of our level of service. So I'd like to know from staff if this type of facility would push us over that edge in terms of parks and recreation. Everything funnels through the Public Works Department right now. And I know staying on top of our parks and our facilities is important, especially for our community groups when it comes to ball and all of that. So I'm wondering if staff has any input on where we're at in terms of when do we cross that threshold and we need a manager of public works, or sorry, pardon me, manager of parks and recreation staff to manage parks facilities if we added this onto it. And then I'll let other council jump in. So I'll just end on to just with everything happening in the US and Canada when it comes to pickleball courts and related noise issues with parks. I would just like maybe some peace of mind from staff if they can look into the noise associated with, as it's proposed, being organized hockey. I know in the proposal it was doing private rentals for organized 3-on-3 hockey leagues, for example. Just peace of mind and knowing that we're not going to run into any issues down the road with sound that'll carry when it comes to sticks, pucks, and whistles. I know there's baseball there already, but I think with that covered roof being right by the road, I just see issues with whistles, sticks, and pucks. So I just like peace of mind and knowing that we cover that as well. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay. Staff, you have that?
No, I do not have any answers off the top of my head for that. Councillor Bojan's comments in regards to staffing levels are very accurate. If it was just a basic rink where we had to have staff supervise it and occasionally clean it, we may be able to get away with just seasonal staff. However, if it is going to require renting, organizations, organizing it for user groups, etc., we'd have to really strongly look at our current staff complements in the office, because I don't know if we'd have a staff member who has enough time to facilitate that of their current views. So definitely something to consider. And the other items we'll definitely review further in detail and bring back in a report for council's consideration.
Okay, Councillor Basie.
All right, your worship, thank you. These aren't really in order, they're in order as I read them through here, so I wrote them down. Currently, there's what is the cost of moving the park and who's paying for it? Who's moving the trees and who's paying for it? The operating costs do not show any replacement or depreciation kind of thing for the boards, the netting, the Zamboni, that kind of thing. Who's paying for the Zamboni? I believe licensing was not required because they're going to piggyback a bunch of units together. So if we just clarify that. As far as the town goes, where is the $1 million loan going to come from? Who will be responsible to guarantee the loan? And also in the proposal, it says that the Optimist will get 12 free hours of ice time for open skate, but it's stated in there that it's not necessarily free open ice time. So if we could clarify that. When it comes to the builder, are we allowed, even though the Optimists are doing this, but we're fronting the money, will our purchasing bylaw allow us to go with a sole vendor and not go out to tender? Not that I have anything wrong with who they have, but I don't know if we're allowed to do that. There's no real quote for building. It's just a monthly fee that they're gonna go on. I find it hard to believe that 1.6 will build this. So I don't want us to go into the hole and then find out we're way over budget. So if we get clear, accurate numbers, I'd be more comfortable. In there, it does talk about the design and the town should have rights to okay that design before they even start. Make sure it fits in with what's there and everything else. Like I say, I have reservations going from an ice rink to a mini arena. I'm not sure. Mini arena in our climate. Gonna make any sense up in Sudbury. Yes. Like I say, every arena I know of loses money, and doing one that's open air. To me is even riskier. The operating costs are gonna be higher. And the last, but not the last things, Kamlaki Ball, who is another major user of that area and of the park, needs to be involved with this. It does affect them one way or the other. And lastly, my biggest concern is I've heard nothing from the public. I know the optimists want this, but do the public want this? Because I see it adding 1-2% to our budget operating cost wise. Is that, is it going to be supported? If it's going to be supported and it's something everybody wants, then it would make me a lot happier to go with this. That's all I have, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councilor Vacy.
Through the chair, if I may. Two facts that we've already started to look into that Councillor Vacy brought up was the guarantee of the loan. Our lawyers reviewing our ability to legally loan monies to an entity in this situation, as well as the purchasing policies they plan to use. Our lawyer is reviewing our ability to enter into a lease for the purpose of this constructing this building, and how does that affect our rights under the flag and our procurement policies. So that'll be part of the review and has already started that discussion.
Thank you.
Kleenex in the area, but-
I didn't know that's what you were doing. So.
It does move fast.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Okay. Rodriguez.
Okay. So under site plan, it is noted that the playground equipment is to be moved by the town. Does the town have a plan on where the equipment will be relocated to? If so, where? What do those costs look like? Under fundraising initiatives, are the optimists considering more fundraising initiatives than what is stated, which is currently only one draw lottery per year, and one event being the annual summer send-off? It is noted that it took 2 years to raise 100,000. At this pace, it would take 10 years to raise 500,000, which is half as what is committed to be paid back in 10 years. I was hoping to see more of a fundraiser plan here and or a list of donor dollar amount commitments and the timeline to receive those donations should the project proceed. Under cost estimates, the quote for the project is 1.6 million. Did this price account for future cost increases, let's say 4 to 6 years out? Under proposed term, it is noted that the optimist will not commence construction until $400,000 is raised. This will consist of the 100K raised over the last 2 years, leaving another 300K to be raised. It took 2 years to raise that first 100K. So if that timeline stays consistent, then the facility may not be ready to start for another 4.5 years. Also, the building will take approximately 18 months to build, therefore increasing the probabilities that this project may increase in price over the next few years. Under repayment of loan, included is any successful grants would be applied as a repayment on the loan. This is also an unknown, and known types of grants have been identified, as well as amounts that may be recouped, leaving this mute in reference to financial considerations. I would like to know what it would look like to do this project in phases. I envision phase 1 being the rink at the 500K quote if the project was to start 2 to 3 years, and if a levy was implemented, the cost of this phase may not require any borrowing and a more prudent solution for the tax base. The existing community center has washrooms and a kitchen in place already to accommodate the public and vendors alike. I envision phase 2 being the accessory structure and phase 3 the finishes. The Zamboni does require some consideration on how the phases could be structured. Phasing will undoubtedly have higher building costs overall, but it is important to keep in mind that borrowing money to build the facility to then provide it as a loan, interest-free, could potentially have unrecoverable interest cost losses running between $250,000 and $450,000. If PW were to proceed with this facility, I would like to explore the option of removing the voluntary benefit payments to Lambton Shores and Petrolia for their indoor hockey facilities, or see these fees reduced. Although we do not have our own hockey facilities, we would have facilities that those communities do not, and therefore each jurisdiction's benefits are a wash. Under operating agreement, I would like to better understand the reasoning for not allowing the Optimist to operate the facility, as it has been stated that there are no special licensing or certificates required to operate the rink and or Zamboni. This may also save on operating costs to the taxpayers as well. The town currently allows the Huron Shores Optimist to operate the community center on the same property as this proposed rink. I have seen other communities who have volunteer organizations operate such facilities. An example is Guelph, Brantford, and Hamilton. Under Huron Shores Optimist free ice time proposal of 12 hours per week for fundraising efforts, would the fundraising profits then be given to the town as payment against the loan and until the loan is paid in full? Under terms of reference, I would like to see an agreement in place that includes all parties, not just the builders and the optimists, as it relates to payments, design, grants, approvals, scope changes, completion schedules, milestones, and communications, so that the expectations, budgets, and timelines are all reviewed and approved equally among all parties for public accountability and transparency. Besides AODA washrooms, how is this facility designed to be accessible to people with all abilities? In summary, I believe this project to be a unique community benefit to all of Lambton County and beyond. It is proposed to be in a well-suited geographical location in Plympton-Wyoming, as well as surrounding lands are zone commercial and or viable for commercial expansion, which is lacking in this large growth boom portion of our community. It is also adjacent to the town's community center, which is where most outdoor rinks are located. The town will be in a position to have a community amenity that no other surrounding jurisdiction has. Our own population is approximately 8,500. Lambton Shores is over 10K. Petrolia has over 6, and Sarnia is around 75K. So in terms of population, there's certainly justification to build this facility. The facility will be the anchor to propel the surrounding commercial lands to viable economic drivers. Many in PW have expressed time and time again the growing need to create more functional spaces to play and exercise. This facility will foster and grow strong families and healthy communities. As of now, without having more financial information on options on how to proceed, I am in favor in principle of the possibility of a special levy being explored for this proposed community capital project. A special levy ensures that the funds go directly to the project and not be used elsewhere. The optimists are asking for $1 million interest-free loan over a 10-year period, if the town is looking at the possibility of borrowing reserves already allocated for the projects, this could drive the overall costs up by an substantial amount. If the town were to implement a special levy, I hope this would only happen with support for the proposed facility through community consultation as well as support for the financing as well. As funds are reimbursed through fundraising by the Huron Shores Optimists, other capital projects may be able to be assigned to those funds, or a separate reserve could be assigned for repayments. This would likely change the dynamics of how this whole project would be laid out, but it may be the most appropriate way to provide guarantees and accountability to the tax base in the absence of having concrete timelines on construction costs and repayment for the fund.
Just running that at the time, but I'll certainly do the appropriate research and they'll be part of the report when it comes back.
Deputy Mayor.
Okay, I'll just, the other counselors have raised many issues. I'm not gonna. repeat any of them, but I accept the ones that I feel are very important. And one of them is, of course, that council has 4 other major undertakings. We've got, like, we're proposing a new works department, property, another confidential proposal, and a decision to make on an old town hall. So with it needs to be committed to growth, but when that's part of our mandate. Our property facilities, and they need updating. So there's all sorts of dollars that need to go there. And I'm not sure that we will be able to fund a rink with 0% interest. So, and also that the public needs to be aware of this proposal, and we need to have public input. So that's the comments I'll make right now.
Thank you, Deputy. Dr. Van Cleveren.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I think I'll limit it to comment, maybe a question in regards to the design as it stands. If there's been any thought or plans to present other options, additional mock-ups or designs, for instance, from very simple to the design that was presented by our fine at the Optimist Club. For instance, the most simple of designs could be an open rink using existing washrooms, forgoing a Zamboni and opt for a snow cleaning unit, for freezing weather, and a small group of organizers to manage other uses in off-season. Number 2, something middle of the road, perhaps a covered structure with ice making equipment. But again, using some of the existing facilities and a small group of organizers to manage, and then a professional to manage the ice pad. And then number 3, the plan as presented by the Optimist at a previous meeting. I think it'd be great and to understand exactly how they landed on the existing design, if there's any room for compromise or to sacrifice maybe some of the features they had thought of. I love the vision. I think it's a great idea. I'm wondering if we're just reaching a little too far, but it's hard to gain perspective without some other options. For me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Councilor Wolvett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, listen to the conversation going around the room, certainly raised the majority of the questions that that I certainly had tonight. I think the biggest thing that I'm lacking is the strategic plan on a go-forward basis for this community. We haven't received that yet. We were going to have a meeting and talk about that and a whiteboard proposal to let us know what big things are coming to us here in the very near future that we're gonna need money for. I mean, the bottom line is always money. We know the economy is struggling big time. When I look at this proposal and I look at, wanting us to make a loan, $1 million, and I also am a strong believer that the way prices are jumping up, this cost of this project, I'm just not sure it's going to stay at 1.6 million. Things seem to be doubling almost every year. I just heard that on the project in Victoria that also Prittner doubled in price just over a short period of time. When I first heard of this project, it was about a $400,000 project. We're going to have a rink over by the Mlaki Community Center, which made perfect sense. You got the washrooms, you got the facilities there. That facility is only being used part-time, probably would have made sense. Now, I guess I better say this. I really appreciate the Optimist Club for what they're proposing here. It's no different than any other service club in our community. They try to do the best for all of us. And I believe that's what the Optimists are trying to do out there. That's where the population is and growing. So this kind of a thing is to me, very acceptable, but we're going to have to come up. Once again, talking about dollars, staff's going to have to explain to me and to the rest of us where this money's coming from, because there's not a person in this room that didn't stand up at the all candidates night and talk about roads in this community and shape that they're in. And that the money we need, at that time, I think I heard 10 million plus to get our roads and stuff up to standards. We've got to address that stuff. So we're looking at a proposal here, whatever the proposal be, whether it's this or another one. We better have all our ducks in order, because we need money for this other stuff. And this is fine. If staff can tell us, yeah, we got all this money, we can loan out at 0% interest, but what about the rest of the stuff that Nettie mentioned, some of it here, what could happen here in the next while? The other thing, and I'll bring it up, there was a project over in Elvingston. And a couple of things they mentioned, and they're going to make a whole lot of common sense here tonight when we're discussing this, and it's cost overruns. Who's going to be responsible for cost overruns? Like, we can loan $1 million. What if this project doubles by the time they get at it? 1 year, 2 year, are we also going to loan another million or $1.5 million? Somebody's got to explain to me, because everything that I've seen here in the last term of council, plus this one here, is cost overruns, big time. Everything we do, every bid that comes in, everything is cost overruns. So that's going to have to be explained. And I'm just not so sure we're into the lending business here for zero interest. If we have to borrow money, and we've talked about borrowing money for some of our projects, are we going to get that for free? The other thing I'll mention, the economy is struggling. For us to go out there to the taxpayers and ask them to pay more property tax for a project like this, we're going to have to deal with the public big time, because you could be talking here, not a mathematician, but 2 to 3% increase just for this project. And I appreciate all the other comments, and I'm not And the neighborhood want this, I gotta mention that. I'm not sure where the whole neighborhood is on this future development. I'm not sure what commercial establishments we're gonna put in that area. So we need to look at all of it. All I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Council, it's some very good questions. Staff, do you have anything to comment on?
So the biggest takeaway from tonight is public consultation. So the trick is, do you want to see a report back before this public consultation? Because public consultation to do it properly is going to take a fair bit of time. We'll have to have some open houses, some surveys, and maybe even a public meeting on the matter. So that all takes staff time and council time to do so. So if we want to hear from the public before we even consider this proposal again, we're looking well into the new year before we consider it. Or do I bring a report back, hopefully before the end of the year, that looks at the information we have, with the caveat that if we move forward, it has to be after public consultation. I think, given the huge scope of the project, the uncertainties around it, I think loud and clear, most of you want to see public consultation, and staff completely agree with that. I just think we need to be reasonable in the time period to allow for that public consultation and make sure the optimists are aware that we are going to take our time making this decision. We are going to go out to the public and get their opinions on what they want to see for future recreational purposes and their opinion on the proposal at hand. That will all take time.
Dr. Bojan?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Mr. Spansky. I agree that I think at some point it's gonna end there. I think the optimists put a lot of time and effort into the proposal they have that they gave to us, and obviously all of us have read through it a lot, and I think we owe them to at least look at that proposal as it stands right now, which I think will come through that staff report, just to see what plausibility of as proposed is and what those costs look like. And I think delaying that to try to do public consultation, I don't think is the best approach. I think we can do a staff report based on what's proposed would be beneficial personally. Then we can look at this proposal, and then it points to areas where maybe then we can collaborate with the optimists and say, well, as proposed, this, we can look at doing this. And then I think naturally working with the optimists, we might get to a spot where there's alternatives to bring to public consultation. Because I think if we just take this proposal as is for consultation, I don't think there's not enough there for us to be able to make a decision. So I think we're just setting ourselves up for failure if we do consultation on it as is. So I personally would like to see a staff report on the proposed, work with the optimists on some alternatives, and then bring that forward to public consultation, and just more for them to digest and look at personally.
Counselor Basie?
That's exactly what I was gonna say. The questions, most of the questions I brought up were questions asked of me. So until we have those answers, there's no sense having a meeting with the public, because they're gonna ask us those questions again, so. Yeah, I think I'd like to see the report first, and then we have, like I say, we've got something to show.
Yes.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, Adam. What exactly will this report look like? Like, what will it contain, do you think? Just briefly.
It will have to be a summarization of all the points, key points here tonight. We won't necessarily identify every small key point because some of them are very common in nature. It will have to include a financial look at how we fund the project, how we go about that legally and fiscally, whether or not that requires us to loan the money from our own reserves. How does that affect our long-term capability to carry out capital projects? Or if we take a loan from Infrastructure Canada, how does that affect our long-term ability to get loans for other projects? So we'll look at it fiscally, we'll look at it from a legal lens. What is our legal ability to enter into a lease agreement as proposed? What considerations are there in regards to procurement policies? And then we'll look into the operating cost, long-term, short-term, including amortization of the building to ensure that it meets our asset management plan, so that we save sufficient funds to replace it in the 50 to 75-year replacement life. And then dig down into the pros and cons of each. and even suggest a few alternatives to be considered as far as design.
Thank you. Yeah. for that.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense to me that we get some kind of a staff report to kind of sum this up. We talked about here tonight, what everybody's comments are, because they're all over the map, right? And justifiably so, because this is a big project, lots of money involved and I'm assuming legalities involved, like one question was asked about, can you just go with one bid? Can you just go with one contractor? I know they're gonna take it on, but with our rules and regulations here, is that really allowed? And should there be other bids to make sure that the 1.6 million is secure or accurate or not? So I think a staff report would make sense to sum it up, and then we can.
Deputy, you comfortable with staff report?
Yes.
Okay, Councilor Rodriguez, I didn't miss over you.
I'm always last.
Not necessarily.
No, I totally agree. I know that the optimists have been working on this for a couple of years now. They have a big billboard out in front of the property for a couple of years now. Nobody's objected to that proposal for the last 2 years. They finally been able to bring something more concrete, though it does lack a lot of detail. So I think the public at large has been really supporting this proposal. So I think if we can get more information out of the staff report, that will help. I mean, because things always look good in concept, and then when you realize how much it's going to cost you, people might have different opinions, but we need to know that information for them to be able to have input.
I think I'm hearing from council, we're gonna, is comfortable with the motion. We go back to staff for a report. I'll read the motion again. Made by Councilor Vaizey, seconded by Councilor Bolton. Staff received the comments and questions from council regarding the Huron Optimus outdoor ice rink proposal, and then a report be brought back at a future meeting for council's consideration. All those in favor? Here. Thank you, council. Good discussion. Okay, council, we're gonna go to item 6 on your agenda. 1. I have a motion by Councilor Rodriguez, second by Councilor Bojan. The minutes be adopted by council and that those confidential minutes of the closed sessions of council remain confidential and restricted from the public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. That would be your regular council meeting minutes of October the 11th, 2023. And I believe we have this one as well, the closed regular meeting session of October 11th, 2023. Okay, is there any questions on the motion? Everybody had a chance to read them? Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, council, let's go to 6.2. I have it's the committee meeting minutes. I have a motion by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Vaizey. The minutes be adopted by council, and those confidential minutes of the closed sessions remain confidential and are restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Privacy. That would be your Wyoming Public Cemetery and Inactive Cemetery Committee meeting minutes of 7th of September 2023, the Environmental Service Committee meeting minutes of September the 7th, 2023, the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting minutes of the 21st of September, as well as the consideration meeting minutes from the Whiting Drain on the 27th of September, and the Court of Revision meeting minutes from the Carmichael Drain Improvements 2023, bracketed of September the 27th, 2023. All chair people are here if you have any questions. Councillor Bojan.
Thank you, Worship. I just have a question through you to Mr. Spansky or staff. in regards to the Parks and Rec. I know that the Kamalaki Athletic Association had a request to use their grant money towards their hydro bill for 2023. I noticed it wasn't in the minutes, and I know that it was kind of said that this has to be a council decision. I'm just wondering if there's been an update for that group, just with, it's November next week already, so I know they're getting worried about if they can do that or not. So I'm just wondering if there's an update or if there's been conversations with them about that.
No, we need to bring it forward to both the committee and council at the next opportunity.
So November, end of November, they'll probably have a solid answer.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Anything else, Councillor Bojan?
That's everything. Thank you.
Anything else from any of the council members? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Council, let's go to 6.3, councilors report. Deputy?
Yeah, I'll start and I'll tell you that I was at the Sarnia Community Foundation grants presentation. You weren't able to make it, so you asked me to go. And this was their 40th anniversary. They gave out about 17 different grants to different associations, like, for example, Into the Good Shepherd, United Way, John Howard Society, all those ones, and they're different types of grants, but they're giving away $1 million this year. It's just fantastic what they're doing. They started 40 years ago with 500, and that, you know, so they're really proud of what they do, and they have every right to be. So, yeah, a lot of people have benefited from it, and I came in after everybody had already eaten everything, but I did get another cake. So
Here we go.
anyway, it was a great, you know, just good learning. So there you go. I'm done. Oh, and just one more thing I'll add about that. That there at my table, there was a young lady sitting there and she'd received a scholarship for medicine, and she did know, you know, she's going to come back to Sarnia when she gets her degree and be a doctor here. So that just goes to show you where these scholarships and grants go, you know, they're an influence. So, okay, next, John, what have you been doing?
Apparently not that much. I have nothing to report. this week.
Okay. And Bob? Oh,
Thank you.
Councillor Wilbur.
I've been at two meetings. Certainly one was a cemetery where we were kind of got a summary of stone repairs that were done at the public cemetery, which was really unbelievable how many were repaired, and the report that was given to the committee, sent out to the committees of all the pictures of everything that was done, right from start to finish, before and after pictures. So you knew exactly what the contractor was doing, what he had done. Very good report. And we're able to basically cut the budget this year in half on stone repairs. So instead of spending $10,000, contractor suggested we spend half that. 4 sections to the cemetery. He said, let's do these 2 this year at $2,500 a section. We'll do the other 2 next year because we can't do it all anyways. So we saved it. So perfect. The other meeting that I chair is the fire committee. And of course, we introduced our new chief, Mr. Eric Campbell. So he was introduced and took over the meeting. Very knowledgeable gentleman. So we did that. We had a big discussions on firefighters recognition. There was issues came up about firefighters were concerned that they weren't being recognized for staff recognition, that was eliminated. Budget money was taken away, which was not so. The money, as a matter of fact, the money's still in the budget. It wasn't set up by the chiefs. Of course, you had COVID, you had all kinds of things going on. So we're going to go back and revisit that on the recognition of our firefighters, their spouses, better halves. We also had an in-depth discussion on service awards. There'd be service awards presented at the Christmas party. 5, 10 year, 15, and then the other awards, which are 25, and that's a special recognition. So we talked about the antique fire truck. At this point, the old truck is back in the fire hall. The engine, right now they're dealing with a gentleman out of Sarnia that is going to give them a quote on how to rebuild that engine. Because that engine is an old engine in the thirties and has Babbitt bearings. Not everybody can deal with Babbitts this day and age. So that's an ongoing process and we hope to not spend $50,000 on that old fire truck. We're more like what we got budgeted for and or whatever. And there was all other kinds of small things set up, so I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Badger.
Thank you. I've got nothing to update on environmental services. We meet again next week. On the special events committee front, just a reminder, promotions started for Christmas in the Village, December 9th. So if you're on Facebook, there's an event page that'll be posting information about that event. And then on the 11th, of course, you have your Remembrance Day ceremony at the Legion. And then next night, we'll do your night there as well.
Good, thank you. Councillor Bailey.
Usually not done that quick. Well, we had our Parks and Rec meeting last week. We did have the optimists come and speak to us. And it was more for just running of the hall deficiencies and that kind of thing. They did give us a heads up that we're gonna be looking at chairs in the near future, so that'll be a big expense for us. But other than that, we went through our task sheet, which is pretty much the same as the fire department, where we're listing everything that needs to be done and timeline, so it doesn't get missed, which has been going on in the past, so that went over well. We did our second look at the budget for next year. And it's pretty much done. It'll be coming to you shortly. Other than that, we looked at the accounts, which were the wind up of the pool, that kind of thing, and mostly 99% of our year is done, so it's just a matter of cleaning up trees and stuff like that, so. Other than that, committee of adjustment, as you'll see, we had a couple we dealt with, so we'll see that next one when it comes through. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councillor Rodriguez.
I have none. I think Air Bob Bullitt, for the fire exec, went over everything thoroughly. I am having St. Clair Conservation Authority. Budget review tomorrow. And right now I'm sitting at a 4%. And then we have our fire budget tomorrow.
And are you going to ask what, why there's an increase of 4% for us when we've taken 2 parks off their hands?
I should have a couple of questions because they also have this additional fee for us under conservation. I'm not sure why it's there. Yeah. So I do have a couple of questions.
Good, good. Councillor. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy. Just one item to share with you this week, as I announced at our last meeting. Last week has been called Library Week. I had the opportunity to read at the library a couple stories to a really tough audience of 8 children between the ages of 2 and 4. It was certainly an enjoyable experience, and I want to express my appreciation to the staff for how they handled the program. The interaction that the teacher has with the children was just phenomenal. And I was very, very pleased with the whole day, and even got to play the tambourine to rehash those musical skills I must have lost over the years. So it was a great program. I spoke to several of my fellow county councilors who had that opportunity as well, and the comments were all positive. It was a great day. So yeah, it was good.
So you don't just sit there and read to them, they actually have people sit there and control kids and make them listen to you?
There's a whole program that they do actually, and there's not only that, besides reading these 2 books, I got to put felt things on a felt board. Pictures of pears and flowers and that, and they weren't in any special order. I had to think quick. So it was good. It was good. Pretty good.
Is that it?
That's it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so council, thank you very much for your report. We're gonna go, we have drainage at 6. So I'm gonna do one report and drainage. I'm gonna go to 7-1. And then we're gonna take a break and let Counselor Van Claveren take over and be prepared for 6 o'clock sharp on the drainage meeting. I have a motion by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Counselor Basie. That the report by Jessica Wilson, Drainage Clerk, dated October the 12th, 2023, regarding a request for appropriation of drainage assets be accepted. Attached agreements for appropriation of drainage assessment due to severance of land for the Chalmers Drain, McMurphy Drain be approved. Is there any questions on that motion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Council, we did so well there. Let's go to the next one. There's a couple. Okay, 7-2, I have a motion by Counselor Van Claveren, seconded by Counselor Wolvet. The report by Elizabeth Cummings, Drainage and Engineering Coordinator, dated October 13th, 2023. Regarding petition for drainage works by owners of lot 24, concession 4. 5761 Wanstead Road be received. That council accepts the petition as filed and appoints R. Dobbin Engineering Incorporated to make an examination of the area requiring drainage and prepare a report on the matter. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, Counselor Van Claveren, would you like to set up for your drainage meeting?
Thank you,
We
Mr.
got
Mayor.
a couple minutes, but we'll, I know you have to shuffle some people around or whatever you need to do.
McAndrew Drain Width Branch. At this time, I ask if there's anyone that needs to declare a pecuniary interest, that they do so at this time. Hearing none, I would request members to make the appropriate declaration if necessary throughout the business of this meeting. The purpose of this consideration meeting is to discuss the technical aspects of the drainage report dated August 28th, 2023 for the McAndrew Drain Width Branch. If there are assessment concerns, these will be addressed at the court of revision. Allow me to introduce the council and staff personnel present. Mayor Gary Atkinson, councilors Bob Levette, Kristen Rodriguez, Mike Vasey, Alex Bojan, our deputy mayor Nettie McEwen, our drainage and engineering coordinator Elizabeth Cummings is here, our drainage clerk Jessica Wilson, and our engineer is Mr. Josh Warner on behalf of our Dobbin Engineering Incorporated. Mr. Warner will provide an update on the status of the engineer's report. Warner?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll give a brief overview of the report and then make myself available for any questions or comments. So the McAndrew Drain Width Branch has been prepared under Section 4 of the Drainage Act as a result of petitions from landowners on the north side of London Line. The landowners petitioned for a sufficient outlet for their subsurface water in order to tile their properties, with an existing road crossing approximately 200 meters to the east being at an insufficient depth. The report proposes a new 323 millimeter diameter steel casing across London Line with a catch basin and connection point for the two properties. The total estimated cost for the work is $58,280. The report also includes a detailed breakdown of the allowances and assessments, provisions for maintenance, working areas, drawings, and construction specifications. I'm available if there are any questions or comments.
Any landowners that have any questions on this particular drain? Any concerns? Anyone on council have any questions? Councilors? Particular drain? So there's two recommendations that we can consider. That the report by R. Dobbin Engineering Incorporated dated August 28th, 2023 regarding the McAndrew Drain Width Branch be adopted as presented, and that bylaw 114 of 2023 be taken as read a first and second time. And that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Recommendation number 2, that the report by R. Dobbin Engineering Incorporated dated August 28th, 2023 regarding the McAndrew Drain Width Branch be referred to the engineer for design revisions. Allow me to read the motion. The report by R. Dobbin Engineering Incorporated dated August 28th regarding the McAndrew Drain be adopted as presented, and that bylaw 114 of 2023 be taken as read a first and second time, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. All in favor? Carried. Motion was moved by Councillor Bojan and seconded by Councillor Vasey that the consideration meeting for the McAndrew Drain Width Branch be adjourned. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Our second consideration meeting tonight is for the Falconer Ramsey Drain and Lower Aberarder Creek. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest at this time? Hearing none, I would request members to make the appropriate declaration if necessary throughout the business of the meeting. The purpose of this consideration meeting is to discuss the proposed works and technical aspects of the drainage report dated August 22nd, 2023 for the Falconer, Ramsey Drain and Lower Apparatus Creek. If there are assessment concerns, these will be addressed at the Court of Revision. Allow me to introduce council and staff personnel present. Deputy Clerk, I'm going to introduce her first, Ella Flynn. She was missed the last time. Our Mayor Gary Atkinson. Councilors Bob Wolvette, Kristen Rodriguez, Mike Facey, Alex Bojan, and our Deputy Mayor Nettie McEwen. Introduce Drainage and Engineering Coordinator Elizabeth Cummings, our Drainage Clerk Jessica Wilson, and the engineer on this project, Mr. Josh Warner, on behalf of R. Dobbin Engineering Incorporated. Mr. Warner, will you please provide an update on the status of the engineer's report?
So the Falconer Ramsey and Lower Apparatus Creek Drain Report has been prepared under Section 78 of the Drainage Act to address erosion, flooding, and culverts along the length of the drainage works. The report recommends spot cleanouts between station 0 and 1+920, a cleanout of the open channel from station 1+920 to 9+680 with erosion protection, bank resloping, environmental features, and future maintenance provisions for the drain between station 9+068 and 10+350. The report also recommends the replacement of 2 culverts and the installation of 1 new culvert. The culverts are specified as precast concrete box culverts and have been designed to handle the 1- and 2-year storm event. As part of this report process, we have incorporated many environmental features in order to offset the loss of fish habitat caused by the brushing, ditching, ditch cleaning, and resloping. These environmental features include ripples, oxbows, pools, reinstating of a gravel substrate, two-stage channel, riffle pool sections, tree plantings, woody debris, cobblestone substrate, and a meandering low flow channel. The total estimated cost for the project is $1,235,594. Again, the report also includes a detailed breakdown of the allowances and assessments, provisions for maintenance, working areas, drawings, and construction specifications. I'm available for any questions or comments from council.
Any landowner here that would like to speak to that? People are drinking, have any questions, any comments, any concerns?
I have just a general.
If I could, if you'd be so kind, introduce yourself.
Susan Smith, Brighter Lane. Just wondering if the significant rain that we had and subsequent runoff would materially change the findings that you had when you did your initial assessment.
So through the chair, after that rain event, we weren't able to, obviously we didn't resurvey the drain, but I don't feel that it would change the original assessment. We don't design for that severe a storm event. That was a rare event that, unfortunately, we were not able to design for it because the cost would be extraordinary. As I mentioned, the culverts are designed for 1- and 2-year storm events. So, and that's typical of the rains that we do.
Questions? Yes, sir. Bill.
Yes, I have a question. My land is, I have a renter that rents the land. And what I'm concerned about is any damages to the crops at the time. Does he apply for the damages, or who assesses the damages? That is my question at this time.
Yep, so through the chairs, included in the report, there's allowances. So there's 2 sections of allowances. One's section 29. So those are allowances for loss of right of way. So we've included those for where we are resloping the drain so that you're essentially losing that area of land that's farmable. And then there's section 30 allowances, which are damages to crops. So those are paid for through the report. Through the drain, and they're basically pre-assessed. It's not assessed after the fact.
It's pre-assessed.
Yeah, so within that report, or within this report, there's an allowance paid to your property for damages. to crop, whether they're there or not, those get taken off your assessment.
That makes sense, Bill? Future question, okay. Any other questions from landowners? Any concerns?
I just have a. You're almost there. I just had a question all the time I've been over here. I've never really got an answer why our assessment is one of the highest ones and we have the least work to be done in our.
Yeah, so through the chair, so I don't necessarily agree that it's the least amount. There was quite a bit of resloping in that section that's being done, and that's why the assessment on your property.
No trees to be taken out on either.
Yeah.
But not on either side of us, it's less a jungle, but.
Yeah, the trees are definitely a factor in reducing your assessment, but there's quite a bit of resloping and erosion protection on your property in particular. And that's why your property assessment per linear meter is generally a little bit higher than some of the other properties.
An answer may not be satisfied, but you're okay. Fair enough. Any questions on council? Councilor Racy?
Yes, sir. In the report, you've got that you're replacing culvert number 4 is one of your culverts to replace. But yet, when I look at the condition of it on your other page, this is saying that it's okay. It's underwater, appears to be okay. So
Yep, so again, through the chair, so that culvert wasn't originally proposed to be replaced because with the low level crossings, they're underwater the majority of the time. So that landowner had reached out and we had went through the cost with them and that landowner, and they requested it to be replaced in order to provide a better access. So it's being replaced with a concrete box culvert, which can be crossed all the time versus the low level crossing where if there's a severe storm event, they're unable to utilize it.
perfect, thank you. That's all I have.
Councilor Racy, any other questions? Recommendations, again, there's two that the report by our Dobbin Engineering Incorporated dated August 22nd, 2023 regarding the Falconer Ramsey Drain, Lower Aberarder Creek be adopted as presented, and that provisional bylaw number 113 of 2023 be taken as read a first and second time, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Recommendation number 2, that the report our Dobbin Engineering Incorporated dated August 22nd, 2023 regarding the Falconer Ramsey Drain and Lower Aberarder Creek Drain be referred back to the engineer for design revisions. Allow me to read the motions. Moved by Councillor Bob Bovet and Councillor Alex Bojan, that the report by R. Dobbin Engineering Incorporated dated August 22nd, 2023 regarding the Falconer Ramsey Drain and Lower Aberarder Creek be adopted as presented, and that bylaw 113 of 2023 be taken as read a first and second time, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. All in favor? Carried. Final motion moved by Councillor Bob Wolvette, seconded by Councillor Alex Bojan, that the consideration meeting Falconer Ramsey Drain and Lower Aberarder Creek be adjourned. Favor? Carried. Mr. Mayor, that concludes the consideration meetings.
All right, thank you, Counselor. Counselor, I'd like to take a 5-minute break, so we'll reconvene here at 6:20 sharp. Thank you, Danny. Okay, council, welcome back, everyone. We're gonna go to item 7.3 on the agenda. Thank you. I have a motion by Councillor Bojan, seconded by Councillor Vacy, that the report by Elizabeth Cummings, Drainage and Engineering Coordinator dated October 13th, 2023, regarding a request for drain improvements for the McCall O'Connell drain be received. That council appoint R. Dobbin Engineering Incorporated under section 78 of the Drainage Act to produce a report based on the improvement request received September the 6th. 3. Council, any questions on that one? Councillor Van Claveren.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is probably a question for our drainage superintendent. This particular request for improvement, just so I'm clear, is it just for the open portion of the drain? And they would like to have it closed. And how is something like that assessed?
Generally, enclosures at the request of landowners are assessed to the landowners. There may be that request it. There may be a small charge to the upstream landowners for what the engineer would consider cleaning, because they assume that you're going to, by enclosing the drain, you are saving the upstream landowners future cleaning costs. So it's usually quite minimal, and the majority of the costs are absorbed by the requesting landlord.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Further questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Council, we're gonna go to 7.4 on the agenda. Motion by Councillor Bojan, second by Councillor Vacy, that the report by Elizabeth Cummings, Drainage and Engineering Coordinator, dated October 13th, 2023, regarding a petition for drainage works by owners at lot 15, concession 8, be received, and the council accepts the petition as filed and appoints R. Dobbin Engineering Incorporated to make an examination of the area requiring drainage and prepare a report on the matter. Is there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Council, we'll go to item 7.5. I have a motion by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Councilor Wolvette, that the report prepared by Adam Sabansky, former Director of Public Works, dated October 18th, 2023, regarding bylaw 95 of 2023 to regulate parks, recreation facilities in the town of Plympton-Wyoming, be received, approved by council, and that the said bylaw be taken as read 3 times, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign accordingly. With the author, Mr. Sabansky, with us, are there any questions on that report? Councillor Wolvette, then Councillor Rodriguez.
You itemized motorized vehicles, you include electric bikes. A lot of the bikes today are electric. If I'm reading this right, you wouldn't be allowed an electric bike to go into those parks either. A lot of these bikes, you see these balloon tired ones, I'm not talking about e-bikes on the highway, I'm talking about electric bikes. I was reading this correctly over the weekend. It looks like they wouldn't be allowed neither, and I just don't think that's right. A lot of people have them now, especially people that aren't able to paddle a normal bike. The bicycle. Yeah, it kind of segregates it out. You don't have to answer it tonight, but if you take a look into it before your final report and just take a look at what you're talking about.
So you're through the chair, if I may, Councilor Wolvette, so e-bikes are considered a bicycle, and they're both considered a wheeled conveyance. So wheeled conveyances are allowed in certain areas of the parks. only motorized vehicles unless you in areas dedicated are restricted in our parks. So unless I am misinterpreting the bylaw, the use of an e-bike is similar to a bicycle or any other wheeled conveyance and would therefore be permitted in designated areas, just not in non-designated areas or restricted areas.
Okay, maybe I'm reading it wrong because I read it in 2 or 3 different places. Moved down to e-bike, electric bike means a power assisted bike, defined Ontario Ministry of Transportation. That's different. That's an e-bike. I'm talking about the electric bicycles.
May I understand what page you're on?
Pardon?
What page are you on?
Yeah, I'm not even sure. I'm on page 3 right
found
now.
where
It's in several different areas being defined.
So Councillor Wolbert, you're correct. E-bike did get lumped in under motorized vehicles, but it is also lumped in under wheeled conveyance. So it can't necessarily be both because the restrictions on each are different. So we would have to remove that from the motorized recreational vehicles, as it was not intended as that. They're intended as a assisted bicycle more than a motorized vehicle.
Okay, yeah, an e-bike definitely different than as defined by the Ministry of Transportation.
Yes, sir. So that is, again, we beg, borrow and steal bylaws so that we didn't notice that it doubled up there.
Okay.
So we can have that amended, the bylaw is amended, which would simply cross out e-bike under motorized recreational vehicles on page 2, the definitions. Which would be page 4 of the staff report total.
Oh, okay.
Councillor Rodriguez, you have a question?
Yes. Under hours of operation on page 5, 6.1, parks are generally open year round from dusk till dawn. During the winter months, no winter maintenance is provided to the parks and all facilities are closed. When you say all facilities are closed, is that your neighborhood park? Yeah, you know, you get a nice warm day in February and it's PD day and kids want to go play at the park. This kind of, that's what I'm picturing in my head. And this says all facilities are closed, so I don't know what it's referring to.
We'd have to look at the,
6.1 on page 5.
I'm not gonna look up the definition of facility.
Oh, I see.
Facility means in any area, building or structure in a park, recreation center or community building under the jurisdiction of the town of Plympton-Wyoming.
Okay. Thank you. Under sports and activities, so if a facility like this outdoor ice rink, when we'd have to come back and then make an amendment, obviously. To incorporate all the normal regulations you'd put in something like that.
I would
Would
suggest that
be part of this.
we would have to either amend this bylaw or have a separate governing bylaw specifically for the ice rink.
And under 8.5 watercraft, it's just saying. No person shall jump, dive, or enter the water in any other manner from the boat launch. But what if? Obviously, there's emergencies maybe or something, so maybe adding the verbiage about. You know, somebody's dog jumps out of the boat when it's, you know what I mean? There's gonna be situations, although rare, where. Person may have to enter that. Water area. An emergency is kind of what I was. Thinking in my head when I was looking at it.
I would remind council that these bylaws are at the discretion of the bylaw enforcement officer. I don't think we're gonna lay an enforcement fine for someone jumping in to save their dog, child, or other person. I don't think this is intended to prevent people from jumping off the dock to save or
Okay.
person or material, but simply to prohibit people from using it as a swimming area.
So In the.
That type of things included in exclusions.
I don't see the exclusions on this one.
They have it up on the screen for you.
I have it in my. Oh, I'm sorry. That's a different page. So under B, in that same area, you have operate a boat watercraft in a designated swim area. Do we have designated swim areas?
Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Currently, we do not, but there has been discussions, especially when there was high water levels about designating swim areas specifically at Lamrecton Park. It's been a non-issue since the water went back down, but when the water levels are high, that is something that was discussed at the Parks and Recreation Committee, was specifically Lamrecton Park identifying the swim area, as there had been numerous weekends with the high water levels that the entire beach was parked boats and there was very little room for swimmers. So, lower water levels, that doesn't have as much of a concern, but we want to maintain our right to designate swimming areas and prohibit numerous boats from necessarily driving up to the beach in those swimming areas.
Okay.
Got it, Counselor?
I think so. Number 14 on page 9. Prohibited activities general. I don't know why I put this here. Enables accessibility parking. I don't see that as, oh, I think I just threw it there. Because I don't see it being identified in the bylaw anywhere about. Do we have designated accessibility parking areas?
Yes, in some of our parks we do, but I would suggest say that our parking bylaw can enforce that. Parking bylaw is directly associated with the road allowances, not necessarily this bylaw itself. So that could be something we want to consider. However, I have to review the bylaw to see if there's other spots where we did address parking that may be used in that situation.
I think that covers your questions, Counselor. We have any more?
I think that was the last, well, I did have a question of, I think he was still looking for an answer for me. But about the glass containers in the park, that was my final one.
You know that, Mr. Sabansky?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very good.
If I may, your worship, our chief building official is with us. And that might be able to help you with this question a little bit. Is there general provisions, provincial provisions in regards to parking in accessible parking spots?
Yeah, if we're marking them appropriately, we can pull it into our parking bylaw.
Even if it is on private property?
Yes. We can in municipal lots and such. I think what we need to do is make sure they're signed appropriately with a sign with a post, and you have to be sort of lines. But the sign and post have to be there or it's not enforceable. It can't just be like a mark on pavement.
And our minimum standard is the sign and post. So if we have an AODA parking spot, there'll always be the sign and the post. The painting is usually what is missed, especially on the gravel parking lot.
So for example, the ones in the back lot here, if someone were to park there in one of the accessible spots, we would not be able to ticket them.
Thank you.
Right? But how do you put signs in those kinds of lots? Because plowing, shoveling, right, that becomes part of the problem why a lot of times they're not in, but it's not enforceable if there's no sign. It has to state what the fine would be if you park in that spot, and it can't be on the ground because it could be covered. Or when you pull over top, you wouldn't see it, so.
So that includes if it's attached to the building, it has to be on its own dedicated post to be enforceable.
It could be on a building.
Okay.
You are correct.
We do have one in a building, so please avoid parking in the back when it is legally compliant.
The other one.
Anybody here in that category?
Counselor Basie?
I just had that last question.
Oh, I thought, I'm sorry.
He was, it was about glass containers in parks. That was the.
I think I agree with
So I think we've answered the question in regards to accessible parking. As long as it's signed appropriately, it would be enforceable through our parking bylaw. So, and then pardon me, what was the final question?
Well, if I just may add to that one, are we making that effort to create accessible parking spots in our parks?
Yes, through the best of my knowledge, there should be at least one accessible parking spot in each park where we provide parking areas. I would have to double check that every park has that, but I know when we are redoing parking lots, et cetera, we do make an effort to at least put the sign and the post separate from everything else to identify one spot. Lines are challenging because most of our parking lots are gravel, so.
And then the last question is about glass containers
Yes.
in parks. Why can't you have glass containers?
Because they pose danger for any public use, specific, especially on in beaches. It's very common to restrict glass containers from any public space, let alone parks and beaches.
Okay,
Either
just
way.
unfortunate in reducing plastic world, we're saying don't use glass. I know.
True,
it's gonna.
but I also suggest there is more environmentally friendly measures such as a steel cup or something of that nature, or there is other aluminum or plastic options.
Councilor Bailey.
I have nothing on this, your worship. I'm just happy we're not dealing with drainage. No, the report was well done. And I didn't have any questions about it at all.
The only question I have, before I go to you, the fines that are there, they all seem to be fairly consistent. Are they in line with what our neighboring municipalities or even within the province are?
They were stolen from neighboring municipalities, so generally speaking, yes. They are fairly consistent to what we see from the bylaws that we follow.
Stolen could be a harsh term. We could maybe borrow. See any enlightenment that we enjoy.
True, it's not that when we municipalities generally steal, allow their bylaws to be used by other municipalities.
Shared.
We share a lot.
Councilor Bojan, then Councilor Bailey.
Thank you. And there is an industry term, R&D, rip off and duplicate. I just have one question for set fines. I know 8.5 is where we talk about watercraft. And the set fine under number 11 is moor, anchor, launch, or operate a boat except for in specified areas. And it refers to section 8.5D, which is about paying launch fees. I'm just wondering if we should separate section 8.5D into its own set fine for fail to pay launch fee or display launch permit before launching boat. And that's the only suggestion I had.
That's a good one.
And to piggyback on that, I would like to see it higher than what it is. To deter anyone from just getting caught one every 10 times. It's still cheaper to do it than buy the tag, so.
So would you like us to match the seasonal pricing as the set fine for the failure to obtain a permit to launch the boat?
Personally, I'd make it higher. Cause if it's a set fine, he's not gonna pay until he gets caught, and then it's. Make it higher, then the guy will buy the tag.
Are there regulatory guidelines?
It's a good question, and that is not where I'm as practiced in, so it's.
So I didn't hear the question.
Oh, I'm sorry, are there regulatory guidelines? that find them?
Alex has his hands up here.
Councilor Bojan.
Just to provide some perspective in terms of set fines, from my experience, it has to be approved by the court. So give or take $900 and less. Hard to deem unreasonable. Once you start getting into thousands of dollars, that's when the judge will probably say this is an unreasonable fine, and they'll come back to staff with recommendations. That's kind of typically the experience I've seen when it comes to set fines, but it does have to be sent to the courts for approval.
So I would suggest that we set the fine to at minimum the value of the seasonal pass to maybe the maximum of
But that doesn't give, that doesn't give them a season's pass.
No, it does not. They still have to come purchase it. So,
I'm good with that, yes. Thank you.
so that would
That's
be.
what I would
you guys
request.
want the amendments then?
Council okay with that? Reread that motion just so everybody's aware. It's moved by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Councilor Wolvette. That the report prepared by Adam Sabansky dated October 18th, 2023 regarding bylaw 95. 2023 to regulate parks and recreation facilities. In the town of Plympton-Wyoming be received, approved by council, and that said bylaw be taken as read 3 times. And the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign accordingly as amended. Questions? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, clerk, do we have anything under item 8 bylaws? Okay. Item 9 correspondence, anything at the time?
No action.
Okay, so we're gonna go to item 10, council, 10.1, I'll bring your attention to. Motion by Councilor Basie, second of Deputy Mayor McEwen, that the correspondence items A to O relating to recommended reading and routine approval via and information items not otherwise addressed by resolution be noted as received by the Plympton-Wyoming Council and filed accordingly. So council, that's items A to O. I'm gonna begin on my left, Councilor Wolvette. Anything?
I do not have anything there, sir.
Okay,
Nothing
Councilor
from me, sir.
Nothing. Deputy Mayor? Councilor Rodriguez?
Yes, item,
No?
resolution amendment to the legislation act. It's the death of the newspaper. It's about the death of the newspaper.
And you would like to have that in
So-
a response sent?
What it's referring to is that, as municipalities, part of your responsibility when you're providing public notifications is it has to be in print. Specifications has to be in print. This particular area lost their last newspaper, so they can't do something in print. So they're asking the province to address this issue. Because it's becoming a bigger problem with, newspapers, printed newspapers to be able to survive. And how it affects legislation on how you're supposed to be notifying the public.
So you would like to pull this and send a letter of support?
Yeah.
Item L. Okay, anything else, Councilor Rodriguez? Councilor Basie?
Nothing, your worship.
Councilor Bojan?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Yes, you go right ahead, Deputy.
Pass the original motion, I can put L on it.
Yes, that would be fine. For seconder for that motion by Councilor Rodriguez to fall in. Councilor Van Clever? Okay. Motion by Councilor Rodriguez, seconded by Councilor Van Claveren, that council supports item L in the Township of McKellar regarding call for an amendment to the Legislation Act 2006. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, I have a motion going back to the original motion by Councilor Vaizey, seconded by Deputy Mayor McEwen. Correspondence items A to O relating to recommended reading, routine approval, and information items otherwise addressed by resolution be noted as received by the Plympton-Wyoming Council and filed accordingly, save except item L. All those in favor? Okay, new business, Councilor Wolvet.
One for probably more information than anything, just wondering, are we prepared and where are we at with the appeals on the severances? The land severances that are supposed to be taking place, I believe in December, land tribunal? It was an appeal, right? And are we prepared? That's the big thing. Are we prepared? We got trouble with planners.
So in my current, through the chair, if I may, in the current open forum, I can confirm that the tribunal has paused and that the town and the applicant are looking for resolution outside the tribunal.
Enough.
I can provide more in-depth legal details in closed if council wishes, but that's the only information I provided.
I was approached by some people that have potential severances to find out, are we prepared? Okay, fair enough. The other one I'll just mention here tonight, because I certainly heard it on the news, the closing of Scotiabank in Petrolia. Do we do any business Scotiabank in Petrolia, or are we strictly TD?
I'll refer to our treasurer, Ms. Roddick Priest.
No, we do not do any banking with banknotes.
Enough, okay. And I was approached by an individual, actually been approached a couple of times on this particular one about having a painted crosswalk at Bobby's Restaurant across to the variety store. Now, I know we try to push people down to the official crosswalks and that, but that's a very busy corner to the dog grooming, to the restaurant, so trying to get across Broadway is, they're all over the place, crisscross. And so we've discussed it before. I don't know what the discussion was in the end.
Mr. Sabansky.
Thank you, your worship. So Councilor Wolvet, that is something that we could look into, as pedestrian facilities are responsibility of town, not the county. However, as some of us will recall from when we updated the current crosswalk, there's very strict sightline requirements when it comes to crosswalks, whether they are lit or not. And if we were to install a crosswalk at the described intersection, it would result in the loss of a large amount of parking spaces. So either the best option is to cross at the existing crosswalk and maintain those parking spaces, or to install a crosswalk where the request is and lose notable number of parking spaces.
Yeah, I remember the conversation now. I don't think we want to lose a bunch of those commercial parking spaces, so.
I think we would want to definitely consult with the public if that's a direction we want to move further, given the already reduced parking downtown.
I will present that feedback. I don't think that would go over very good to start closing off a bunch, because I didn't go over very good in front of the credit union. And so I don't think it would very go with the commercial people down there. Thank you. That's it. Yep.
Thank you, Councilor Van Claveren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is a couple of items here. I'm just wondering, are these things something we can raise in the closed session? Or that an option? I'm just wondering if they're more suited to that.
I'm not exactly sure what it is, so if it's questionable, maybe we would do it in close.
Okay.
So just so that we're staying within the reasons that we have presented on the agenda for closed. The better forum may be for the Councillor Van Claveren to email me the questions. If they are items which need to be discussed in closed, we will bring those items back at the next council meeting in closed. If it's something that can be answered relatively easily, I will do so and make sure we copy council on that answer.
I'm satisfied with that. Are you okay with that?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for testing us. Anything else, Councillor Van Claveren?
That's it for me, sir.
Deputy Mayor?
Okay, I received a letter from someone up at Cullen Drive who is concerned about erosion control happening along the cliff near his property. And I've sent it on, I forwarded it to Kristen, to Councillor Rodriguez to discuss or take to the Conservation Authority. So, and there's a person caught me up at the variety store and he's concerned about a sidewalk here in Wyoming that a tree hangs over it, and are you ever gonna do anything about it? That was the question. That's not my question, but
Mr. Urbanski?
So in regards to the tree, we have been in contact with the property owner. We've been taking the first work with the neighbor approach. But we haven't got a whole lot of traction. If we continue not to get traction with working with the neighbor, we may ask by law enforcement to become involved to encourage working together.
okay, what's happening sooner than later?
It is, we also talked to the concerned individual, so it is something that is on our list to look at. In regards to your first comment, the erosion.
Yeah.
So Public Works is well aware of the erosion works that are going on there. They are being done to mitigate erosion works that were done without approval of the Conservation
Right.
Authority. We also have about that. We did have the Conservation Authority confirm that they are being done under their supervision and under their permit. Public Works did inspect our adjacent lands to make sure the works were not adversely affecting them, and there does not appear to be any adverse effect to our lands. However, we do understand the property owners' concerns, and we did encourage them to discuss the matter directly with the Conservation Authority as it's outside our jurisdiction at this time.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rodriguez?
Thank you. Well, just to further that, I've had endless amount of phone calls regarding that property and I've looked at it personally myself. I've never seen anything like it, so I don't understand. So I do hope to have those conversations with the Conservation Authority tomorrow, because it will potentially be devastating to those adjacent properties. I know the public is accesses on the one side.
I just can't understand why it's been going on for so long
Oh.
without anybody doing anything about it, like at the Conservation Authority.
Yeah,
It's outrageous.
I completely agree. I have no words. Really, so hopefully I can get.
Lots of change.
It is, so hopefully I can get some more clarity and be able to respond better to a lot of the neighborhood, because, you know, everybody's like, well, why can't we do it? If they're doing it,
Exactly.
right? So,
Exactly. And without permit, without permission, without discussion, just go ahead.
so, yeah.
Can we as a council give her some backing on this to
I think
not appropriate now or wait till basically
well,
affecting our people and our property?
I don't, it's up to council, but I feel confident that Councillor Rodriguez will take the message very.
I'm just give her some more teeth, that's all I.
Well, I suppose, thank you, I appreciate it. I suppose once I find out more, maybe, you know, I could say, look, you know, this is still a problem, not getting anywhere type thing. So thank you. And speaking of the public access next to that, was the drainage issue there caused quite a bit of erosion. Have we made any headway on that?
The Cullen Drive public access or the public access adjacent to the property currently being modified.
Which is, oh, you're right, sorry, it is further down.
So in regards to
The
the
other one.
Cullen Drive access, which is the stormwater outlet for the storm pond. That is also used for beach access for the local residents. We did get our comments back from the St. Clair Conservation Authority. They agreed that the initial design was minimalistic by nature and they'd recommended numerous revisions. So we're going back to the engineer who did the original design work for the developer and asking them to update their drawings to allow us to go in and rehabilitate that slope to a design which the Conservation Authority thinks will be more suitable given the flow of water and the slope stability in the area. So that work is ongoing, but it will likely now not occur either till winter or in the spring, depending on weather.
So at that point in time, when you bring that back, we'll have a better understanding. of, who could be responsible for those costs.
Unless we were willing to enter into a lawsuit, the developer who developed that initial phase no longer exists. And we've assumed the works in its entirety, so it would lie on us unless we would want to go after the engineer. However, that being said, the engineer designed it at the time, the Conservation Authority approved it at the time, and the town accepted it at the time. So it would be a challenging case to prove any negligence in this situation, especially given that the banks themselves do change in characteristic over a 10+ year time.
Yeah, Councilor Basin.
Yes, your worship. First off, I'd like to thank the fire chief and fire exec for finally getting some stripes on the chief's truck. It's much more professional and so it looks good. Second, I was contacted this week. It's gonna be a bee's nest that we open up, but he's one of the ones that has 2 water meters in his house. So with the new water meter thing going on, first question is, do I have to get 2 of them? And second of all, he would like it reviewed with the 2 water meters. So if it goes to your sprinkler system or your pool, you didn't get charged sewage. And then it got changed, mostly because from what he understood, it was just the nightmare of accounting as far as the water department goes. So he's suggesting now that with technology and everything else, it should be bing, bang, boom and be done. So maybe something to consider for the environmental guys. But so the first question is, does he have to get 2 meters? Because he has 2 meters.
Sabansky.
We are not currently billing 2 meters, so the second meter is what we now consider a private meter. And that was communicated during the initial rollout of the only 1 meter allowed per home program. So that's their own meter for them to use as they see fit. The main meter, which reads the water going into the home, would be replaced through this program. In regards to going back, it wasn't just the administrative time that eliminating the for pools and watering that the program saved money. It also increased revenue for the waste water side. That revenue was part of your financial plan for the wastewater side. So it is in the committee's prerogative to reconsider that process, which would then we could go around and recalculate and offer that program again. It would be at the property owner's cost to reinstall those meters. And it would have to be a newer meter to meet our current program. But then we would have to actually pay to redo our financial plan because it would drastically change the amount of revenue on the wastewater side. Because you'd be removing that revenue from the wastewater side. And we still need to make that revenue to guarantee the 4.4% increase annually that the financial plan makes. So that would have to be reviewed and you would likely see that increase on the wastewater side jump up to cover that revenue because it's needed for to facilitate the wastewater master plan. So it may save some people money, but as a community as a whole, it would just see your wastewater bill climb up to count for it. So your revenues would, for those who fill pools and water constantly, they might save a little bit of money. But it would be on the backs of those who do not use the additional water for their pools and watering their lawns. Your treasurer has a.
Yes,
Also, that program didn't exist in the other areas. And so if we were to consider that again at the meeting, then we would have to open to all the areas which we would use funds.
Okay, thank you.
We serve at the community, so if that's something the community feels strong about, they can always get a petition and bring it to the Environmental Services Committee. But it would not save a lot of money for anyone in the end. It would just shift the cost to somewhere else.
Yeah, thank you. That's all I have.
okay, Councillor Bojan,
Thank you, your worship. I just had two things. The first one was I did see the chief's truck at a call on Sunday and it does look sharp with those stripes on it. The other one, just to fill council in as well, I had a question similar to Councillor Vaizey regarding pit meters. There was a resident that asked if this process is going to force them to abandon their pit meter and move their meter inside. Not to speak for Mr. Spansky, but the response that we got to pass on was that to our knowledge, there's no homeowners are going to be required to abandon a pit meter. They're simply adding a meter and a reader to their existing.
Yes. So if a property owner did want to have the pit meter abandoned, we would work with them to bring the meter inside the home. But the plan as it sits today is just to replace the pit meters as part of the program, and that is at no cost to the property owners.
That's everything. Thank you.
yeah, I have nothing that my personally under new business, so we'll move on to item number 12. A motion by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren, that council move into an in-camera meeting of council pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 is amended for the following reasons. Item A, personal matters. Section 239 bracket 2 bracket B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And item B, solicitor client privilege, section 239 bracket 2 bracket F, advised that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Also, you've heard the motion. All those in favor?